Hello? Do I have to whistle? Can I get everyone's attention? I appreciate looking at the beautiful sea of people. We do, I know some people are just coming in and grabbing food. We do have room up front, so please join us. I'm using the mic because if you don't know, it is being broadcast through Blue Jeans. So if you do speak, we're going to pass the mic to you. I understand you may not want to use it, but I have to explain for universal use, for some of us who can't hear, for some of us who don't like our voice over mic, like me. It really is fair to others who are not in this space who may be paying attention, if you don't mind. We're going to get started. I see lots on the floor, and I know some people have to leave for 6 o'clock. So I really hopefully press that maybe that class might be able to come back if their instructor is willing. But anyway, we do want to get started for the sake of time and to be able to give everyone equal attention. Are we all right with that? I don't have any specific ground rules, but I really am standing here and understanding respect. We can agree to disagree. We can understand that we have differences of opinion and come from different walks of the life and perspectives. And what we look like doesn't mean it's what we identify. So if we can just start with the fact that I'm coming in this space with love in my heart for the profession that I've been in for over 20 years. As a graduate from this school who came from Los Angeles, my name is Nisharon Price. I'm in the Office of Student Services, and I've served you and will continue to serve you as long as I'm here. And when I'm not here, I'll be serving in another capacity. So I thank you once again for being present. And I'd like to borrow a term that someone shared to me, that we listen with both ears. Listening with both ears is giving it a moment to simmer so that you do hear, so that we're not attacking each other, because we're in the same community. We're fighting for the same justice. It may not look the same for the group of people, identity, or wherever, but we are. As social workers, we ascribe to doing the work that we do. And these are learning, teachable moments. So I'm hoping we can teach and learn from this today and whatever else we're going to continue to face, because this is just the start. Because I believe personally what's going on in the real world is also what is affecting us in this space. And we are really grappling with how fast and how rapid something is leaping on the plate before we can even realize what the other thing that just passed or is about to come. And I feel it. I feel it just like you. We may not show it. I know it's not. I have to go home and try to figure it out because self-care is important. But I don't want to have to always feel that I have to censor myself because I am real. I hurt, I bleed, and this bothers me as well. What's going on here and across this nation and internationally. So we could just take the moment to take a deep breath together, understanding that we are here to get to somewhere. And what that looks like is going to look different for everyone. But it is about learning from each other. It is listening to each other. It's reaching arms together. It's whatever it is, an allyhood, identities, and whatever else that comes up. So if you could just, I'm not going to ask you to, control yourself because I'm a passionate person. It's an African way to be passionate and buoyant. But if we can just really, really use this space for a moment to learn from each other, to listen from each other. Okay? Thank you. Adele, would you like to start?
Hello. Thanks, Sharon. Y'all hear me? Hi.
Love it.
I'm Adele, and I wore Adele just by coincidence. I am standing here as your current president of Student Union. I'm standing here before you as a student, second year at the School of Social Work. That's not true yet. And if I can just take a moment to address you all as your peer, as someone who's passionate about social justice, as someone that sees what's going on in the world and then sees what's going on in the school, as someone who, and I'm only going to speak on my own personal experience as a Latina queer woman who's from California, and never would I have imagined that I would be in Michigan, out of all places, where there's lack of diversity, there's lack of representation on all levels, staff, faculty, and even students. And I'm going to just speak from the heart, if that's okay with you all.
No problem.
I didn't really want to plan anything to say. I think we can all maybe just share some kind of same feelings, right? That we're all angry, we're frustrated, we're working against a system that really wasn't built for students of color, wasn't built for someone like myself to really walk in and be like, and I recognize that I pass as white sometimes. So I recognize that privilege. But I have indigenous blood within me, and I claim it, and I own it. My mom doesn't speak any English, so yo hablo en español y spanglish cuando tengo la oportunidad porque es la lengua nativa, right? So I'm coming out frustrated, as many of you all are. Frustrated with okay, where's a lack? There's a lack of action within the university, but even within the School of Social Work. And I'm tired, as some of you or all of you are. And we're being trained to be social workers. We're trained to go out there and be agents of change. And we're going to be fighting an even greater battle once we leave these walls. But I'm coming to you because there's hurt in my heart, that there's attacks amongst one another. There's disrespect. And look, I get it that not everyone here has the same level of education as someone that grew up as a marginalized community. That there's people here of privilege that don't recognize their privilege, and we're questioning, why are they here, right? Because we're all bound by this code of ethics, but it all goes down to being respectful of one another, right? And we're not seeing that. And I get it, I hear you. I'm in it with you. And this is why I wanted to address you all, that I hear you. And I want to apologize as a leader. I don't know what I'm doing some days. And so I apologize if I failed you at any point. I've been here since my second year, and we're still seeing the same things. And I think second years can attest to that. Right? There's one thing after another. There's something going on, and then we're trying to help that or fix that or take action, and then there's something else the next day. So no wonder we're burned out, right? But I think what I hope to accomplish, and I'm just so happy that there's a good turnout. And I want you all to take a moment to really soak this in, who's here in this space, right? How are we going to continue this fight within the school? How are we going to own our mistakes, apologize to those that are hurting even more? Because I'm coming from Latinx, right? So I don't know what my peers are experiencing or the type of hurt, right? That is deeply rooted, much greater than I can ever imagine. And so how are we going to build each other up right now and move forward in a productive way? And look, we're demanding action. So let's keep demanding until we get it. But let's come together. This division, this divide, it sucks. Because regardless, once we leave this space, we're going to be faced with a greater system. There's going to be people that aren't social workers, and they're going to say really problematic things. And how are we going to respond to that? So I hope that this space, that you all understand that I'm here, that I stand by you. The student union stands in solidarity with you all. And I make myself available to you all. You can reach out to me, email, Facebook. I want to hear from you. I think it's important for me as a second year who's leaving soon. I think it's important to really leave behind a really good, strong foundation for first years to continue the fight once we leave these walls. But it's not going to happen if we can't work together, if we can't come to the table and figure ish out. I mean, I wouldn't cuss, but respectful. So I really hope that you all, whatever this space means to you all, I really hope that we can leave these walls and Start learning how to like build each other up, how to uplift one another. If you see someone struggling, if you see someone like really hurting, like how are we gonna continue to like, you know, be that arm or that shoulder? Because it's gonna get tough. It's gonna keep getting tough, as we've seen. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for being present. For my warriors in the space, as we all are, thank you for continuing the fight. We're not in this alone. We don't have to be alone. We don't have to turn against each other. Let's lean on one another. Let's empower our communities. Let's continue to empower one another. Thank you.
Good evening. Is this working? Okay, I can't tell. I am assuming a lot of you don't know who I am, but I am Lorraine Gutierrez. I've been on this faculty since 1994. I'm a graduate of the PhD program in social work and psychology. I am also from LA in California. This is something we have in common. Interesting. And I'm, as you know from the email I sent out, I'm the director of the Office for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the School of Social Work. I was put in that position not because I'm the expert of the world, not because I have all the answers, because nobody does and nobody will. All those things are in process. All of them are being developed. But I was willing to try. And there are people who might have been in this position that I'm in, but they maybe weren't interested in trying. Or it might have pushed them a little bit more out of their comfort zone. Or they had more things that were extremely important to do and they simply had other priorities, whether it was family, whether it was health, whether it was their research agenda, which I respect and I think is extremely important. So I stepped up to say I am willing, interested, able to be the faculty director, even though I anticipated there would be times that everyone would hate me and be saying, what the hell are you doing? Sorry to my mother. I wasn't supposed to swear. And other times, maybe a few people might appreciate the work I do. Every once in a while, I get a little email from somebody saying, I really appreciated that thing you sent out, or I'm really glad we did this or that or the other. I hear a whole discourse about nothing's been happening, and we're going to be putting something on our Facebook page showing what actually has happened. But it's slow, it's arduous, it takes a lot of work. It involves people who work in the school and the students here changing their behavior. Social workers know how hard it is for people to change their behavior. That's what we're all about. Whether it's clients change, individual clients changing the behavior, families changing the way they interact with each other, supervisors changing how they work with their supervisees, people learning who are strangers to each other, learning how to work together when they aren't comfortable with each other. And that's what this kind of organizational change is about, is changing behavior. So we had planned, and Medell and Barb and Dan and Lauren and I and probably other people I'm disrespecting by not mentioning, planned a whole program for tonight. We've set that aside because we thought it would be more important to deal with the issues at hand. And so that's what we're doing. We do have the slides from that program, and I believe that those are going to be shared with everybody, which have to do with things like financial aid funding in the school. Where's that coming from? Where's it going? The diversity of our staff, student body, and faculty, and diversity breakdowns in terms of what groups we represent. We had some questions about what are the best ways of communicating with students about various issues so that we're really communicating in ways that you're going to be able to take in. So we had a number of things. Those are going to be shared with everybody. So because this is all information people have asked for, and we don't want people to miss out on that information. And we're planning additional town hall meetings. So I am someone who has had a lifelong commitment to doing this kind of work. This is what I do. You know, faculty members do research. My research is on diversity. My research is on how do we teach courses in a way that people really learn what they need to learn about pods, so we can create some evidence-based practices around teaching pods. My work is on multicultural community organizing. How do we bring communities together? I do community-based research. I'm assuming that nobody really knows who I am or what I do because there's so many faculty members. I'm a second generation Mexican American person. My mother was born in Mexico, and Spanish was her first language. So I've had that experience as well. And to me, coming to Michigan after coming from a community which had an extremely large Latinx population and other forms of diversity, to Michigan, which was very, very different in terms of the demographics, was for me a real challenge. But I was able to lean on people I knew, like Professor Ortega. We were in school together, and he's a native Michigander. He was able to explain to me a little bit about Michigan and why it was the way it was, and as well as other people as well. So we set aside our agenda for this to be a space for us to come together, to talk about any of the issues people still might want to talk about. I think there's still a lot to talk about in terms of the issues that have come up in the school, and possibly we might want to even extend to the campus and the world beyond it. To think about maybe how we will want to go forward with this, because I really want to reinforce what Nashorn and Medell said, which is we are in a community. Whether or not we have chosen this set of people to be in community with, we are in community with each other. Part of being in a community doesn't mean we all get along. Part of being in a community doesn't mean we share the same identities. Part of the community doesn't mean we all share exactly the same values. But there's something that brought us together, and that's a shared interest and commitment in social work and social justice that can make us be a positive and loving community, as I said in my message, quoting Dr. King. He wrote some wonderful things about a loving community and a beloved community, and that's what inspires me. Or we can be a community that's divisive and uncomfortable and not supportive. And it's really, that is in our hands. That is in the hands of everyone in this building. And so when I've talked with the faculty and the staff and previous classes of students about our diversity agenda, doing the diversity work is not my job. It's not Lauren's job. She works for me full time. It's not the job of the students who work in the DE&I office. It is the job of everybody in this school, regardless of what your role is. There's a role for students. There's a role for faculty. There's a role for staff. All of us bring gifts. All of us bring things that we bring to the table that can contribute to transforming this organization. And every single one of us has things to learn. I have things to learn. Lauren has things to learn. Barb has things to learn. We all have things to learn. So we're really learners and teachers in this space. And I hope we can also be then humble in terms of learning from others, and also open to learning from others, but also realizing, yeah, I'm going to learn some stuff from students about people who were born 40 years after I was born, because they grew up in a different world from the world I grew up in. But just because I'm old doesn't mean I don't want to learn. And just because I'm maybe your grandma's age for some of you, it doesn't mean that I'm still living in that era. It means that I am open to understanding and wanting to appreciate more about the current reality. So there are a couple of things I just wanted to mention before we move on to the next thing. One is that at the end of each row of chairs, there are cards. And this is part of being inclusive. There are people who are very comfortable and very facile when it comes to speaking in front of groups. I'm not a very good extemporaneous speaker, not like my two predecessors who just spoke. So, and you might be able to tell that. So there's some people who can stand up and say whatever, and it's beautiful and it's brilliant. There's some people who need to really sit and think for a while and compose their thoughts and then say something. There's some people who might not at all ever speak in front of a group of people. I used to be one of those when I was a social work student. When I was a social work student, I never asked questions in class because I was afraid of speaking up. Okay? That's different from who I am now. I had to learn, and I did, because I wanted to be able to speak up on the job. So so we want to respect the folks who are not going to necessarily be standing up and speaking loudly. We want to respect those folks that have a lot of really good things to say, but maybe it's easier for them to write it on a card. And maybe they'll share what they wrote on their card here, or maybe they'll leave this for us to look at. And that'll be information for us, and that will be something that we will be using as we move forward. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I know that Associate Dean Ruffalo would like to say something to the group, and then I think we're going to open up for more general discussion. Which one? The one you want. I'll try this one.
Okay, I wanted to come here tonight to share a few things with you because I know I actually wrote what I want to share because I also want to share this on the email to everyone, but I thought I would do it here first. And I also want to appreciate the work that people have done and are continuing to do. So let me read my statement and then I hope you take it for what it's worth. Okay, my statement says, I would like to share with the social work community that I've heard from many of you how bringing DPS to the school to follow our fire code emergency preparedness policies during the protest generated fear, a lack of trust with administration, and disappointment in my actions. I apologize to all of you who, by my actions of calling DPS, felt fear and mistrust in our community. I was responding to our emergency preparedness policies and had not considered that these policies did not represent well the community that we serve in the School of Social Work. I made a mistake and I take full responsibility for the action of bringing DPS to our building. An apology does not mean much without action steps to change what happened. I want you to know that I will be asking students, faculty, and staff to review our emergency preparedness policies to ensure that in our future, our responses are more inclusive of the community we serve. For example, if we had reviewed the policy around fire code violations with a DEI lens, the policy may have been changed to state that unless there is an imminent threat of harm to anyone in the building, we would not intervene with peaceful protesters. This is just one example of a policy that needs to change. Again, I am sorry for the hurt and the fear that my actions caused. Thank you.
We don't have anything else. We just wanted to present at different levels of where we're at and what we're feeling. So this is a time for us to hear, for all of us to put our ears on and listen to what you guys have to say. As I said, I have a mic. I'm willing to pass it. If someone would like to say something, it's a comment, a feeling, whatever is on their heart, please do.
And if you do speak, please say your name.
Oh, correct.
First, because not everyone knows each other in the room, and it would also be helpful for those who might be listening through the streaming to know who's speaking.
Yes, so your name, definitely. Any takers? Yeah, is there any cards? Yeah, is there anything that we could read out loud if that's another form? I'm willing to read from it or.
Hi, everybody. It's Leslie Pittman. I'm a second year. I just want to say I was extremely moved and touched, Mary, by your apology. I think you brought up a really excellent point as far as changing policy. I appreciate so much the spirit of everyone willing to protest and hold people accountable. And I just really wanted to say that's on my heart, that it really touched me. So thank you.
I'm Heather. I just wanted to, I appreciate your statement, Mary, and I just wanted to make a request that the school no longer calls police when there are peaceful protests. And I would just like there to be an acknowledgement from the administration, the faculty, the staff, saying that that will be a policy moving forward, that police of any kind will not be called to strong-arm students in any form when there is a peaceful demonstration in the building.
I just want to say that if I'm still in this position and something, a peaceful protest happens, it will not happen again. So, thank you.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, okay. My name is Daisha Price. I work in the field office, and I guess I want to also thank you, Mary, for talking about action steps that can be taken. And I also just want to remind all of us of a couple of things. One, these policies that Mary talked about, that we talk about systematic oppression, right? And so when we think about that, we have to remember that it didn't start here. It starts higher than that. So yes, Mary can say, I don't want to call the police if there's a peaceful demonstration. But what does the university say? Right? And so I call on you to also think about what are some oppressive policies that are happening in the field, right? Because if your field instructor tells you to do something based on policy, how many of you all are ready to step out and say, no, I'm not doing it? Even if the client say, I want you to stop. Right, so I want us to kind of think about how we can also, I think that goes with the working together thing, is there are some systematic challenges that we all have to stand up against, because we will have to support Mary in doing that, because if the university says any dean has to call DPS, what does one do at that point? How do we support that? How do we look at that? And to just keep all of those pieces in mind as we move forward. So I appreciate that, but I just wanted to make sure because I don't know if we can just say, thank you, Mary, if you're going to step out on that limb, but I'm not losing my job today because I got kids in college, and so I'm not going to go against the policy. I'll fight to get it changed though, right?
Deja, thank you so much for speaking. And again, Mary, thank you for the apology and for, everyone that's spoken so far. I think in reflecting in that we are working towards these systems and figuring out like how can we be more impactful, right, in the long run. Right, like I'm not saying like the protest was the wrong way to go, because I think it did draw attention. It brought like a lot of emotion and frustration that we're experiencing as students, and then we have all these other things, field and school. We have a quiz tomorrow, blah blah blah. But in our training, when we leave this institution, how can we sit in these seats of power? How can we be in these spaces that we can create some systematic change, right? And it starts here. So I get and I hear a lot of myself included, is what action steps can we make? And I think we can use the space and our brain power together to figure out okay, what are the next steps? If something happens outside these walls, what are we supposed to do, right? And I know I don't want to put all the work on students, because we do have a lot, but also as a community, if we're all the School of Social Work, how can we be better in that, right? In responding, my bad. But yeah, so I appreciate what you said, because it kind of brings me back to you're right. There are these systems that were created way before I was even born, way before we were all born, and we're up against that. So thank you, because it's making me think.
Any cards collected yet? Any thoughts? Do we all just meditate? I have two. Okay. I'm going to start here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Elaine. I'm a first-year student, and I'm an international student. I came from a country with thousands of years of history of worship and oppression. And I can't speak for everybody who is from my country, but in my education, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about the effects of it. And I didn't start seeing it until I came here. I am feeling hurt, but I'm not. I am really glad I'm at this space. What I want to talk about is what happened after the protest. It's all the emails that I read. I also have a request, which is for us student, staff, and faculty to come together and have dialogue space. This is an hour and a half. This is 90 minutes. We don't have the time, thank you so much, to break things down. We don't have the time to talk about what we mean when we say the words. I'm entering a whole new space. I did so much Googling today of all the words that I'm reading, I'm hearing, including words that I thought I knew. Things like privilege, things like oppress. Defining words in itself is a privilege. So I don't think I should take those definitions to heart. But I think at least within our community, if we can have a space to sit down and talk about what actions counts as what's the value of intent, what's the value of impact, it takes a lot of time, and it takes all of us to be willing to prioritize that time. And I really want to see that happen. If there's anything I can do, I will do it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vina, and I'm an international student too. What I wanted to address is the need to understand that there are intersecting identities. On so
Take your time. Deep breath, sweetheart. Deep breath.
sorry. So like I read on Facebook and on the daily talking about how like people who don't go to protests are not real social workers. Well, I'm sorry. I'm an international student. I have risks to take if I were to go to protests, especially if police is involved. Undocumented students, DACA dreamers, they have risks to take when they go to protests, regardless of whether it's peaceful or not. So to say that people who cannot, who don't go to field or classes, have nothing else to do with their lives, can't go to protest. I don't even know what to say anymore. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Like have
They hear you.
Like
They're with you.
have no other things that are in their lives that prevent them from going, are not real social workers. That hurts. It really does hurt. Like, as a person who wants to be an immigrant, who is trying to immigrate to America, it is hard to not voice my thoughts when I feel like I should be. And as a person, as a person who wants to be a social worker, to be told that, like, not being able to voice my thoughts, that I'm not a real social worker. So what am I? So I just want everybody to know that there are intersecting identities, that people have other lives, that there are people who just can't voice their thoughts. Like, again, international students, DACA dreamers, and undocumented students. I was severely disappointed by what has happened. Like, especially when it's published all over. Thank you.
As you see, this is pain. We all carry pain. We may not show it. It's not on our face sometimes. And I really, really appreciate the sentiments that are coming through from voices that you probably wouldn't otherwise hear.
So I have to apologize for being overdressed. I was actually in court defending abused children and getting grilled and told they weren't abused when I know they were. And I can see it. I could see it in them because I've talked to them. But I had that feeling when I talked with the students on Tuesday that there was a similar dynamic going on. And when I think about it, it's kind of like what Lorraine was saying. You know, I know there's a safety issue, and this is the conversation I had, so this will be a little repeat of what I said Tuesday, and that is, you know, I went to the one in the Union where they had over like 200 students there. And I could hear the fear in them. But the fear was kind of interesting because it wasn't just safety. It was like they didn't feel like there was anybody here to protect them. You know, I know that when the police were called and DPS came in and all, it didn't feel like you were protected. It actually felt like you were in danger, right? And I think that was a good example of that, right? So we need to know what we need to do to protect each other and to protect you, right? I don't want to be real like paternalist. We need to protect you. We're all adults here, but we need to figure out how to protect each other. But also, we need to know the signs of danger. You know what I mean? Like, we need to know, like, when things are going bad and all, that this is going to put us in danger. We need to figure out how to do it, and we also need to know where to go when we feel like we're in danger. That's one dynamic of kids who are abused and what I saw on Tuesday. The other one is that whole issue of distrust. When you look around, you're like, I'm not really sure who's in this with me. And I'm not sure when you're going to bail on me because I'd like to go a little deeper in this, but I don't want to turn around and see like nobody behind me. I want to make sure you're going to be there. And that's the other part of this community that I would really like us to think about today. The third thing has to do with that whole issue of support. You know, and it's sort of like, I know that when I work with the kids and they sort of like tell people, and the people will say, you know, oh, come on, it's not that bad. You know, oh, come on, you know, it'll go, oh, come on, you're exaggerating. You know, I mean, we really need to believe people. We need to know we can go there and what they say, we have to respect it. It's like real. Why would anybody do this? Why would somebody stand up and say what you just said, right? I mean, you're putting yourself out there, and we need to support that. And finally, you are all here because you want to be social workers. And the idea is that you're going to get an education that is somehow going to make a difference out there. How is it that we're supposed to make a difference out there when we can't even figure out what to do in here, right? So that doesn't give you a whole lot of hope, right? I mean, that's the whole idea. Safety, trust, support, and hope. And for those of you who have heard me, these are the pillars upon which I think we all thrive. Safety, trust, support, and hope. And without those pillars, we're all going to be vulnerable. We're all going to feel like we're abused, and many of us do. That's what's happening here. We don't feel safe. We don't trust. We don't feel support, and we have no hope. And we need to figure out how to get on that road to recovery, right? We need to figure out how to help each other. So a couple of things, and I have to apologize because tomorrow we have a conference here that's going to talk about raising the age to getting kids who are disproportionately sent to prison. as you know, as minors, but they go into adult prison. So tomorrow we're going to work on how to fix that. So I have to go to a dinner in about a minute. In fact, they're probably eating without me. But anyway, I would like us to think about, and I'm just going to throw this out there. I would like us to think about some kind of an emergency response team so that when something like this happens, we can really quickly pull together and come up with a social work statement, a social work response, something where we can get the leadership of students, staff, faculty, and we can all be accountable, right? So that's one thing. But also the other thing is, and I like the idea of having space and all, but I think it's more than that. I think as things come up, we need to figure out where to go express them so that they matter. And I sent a message to Lorraine earlier today. And the other thing I hope we can work on is come up with a set of core principles that we can live by. You know, I always talk about like solidarity, and I talk about tolerance, and I talk about inclusion. I talk about trust. I talk about cultural humility, you know, for those of you who take my classes. We talk about empowerment. We talk about shared leadership. I mean, those are the kinds of principles I think we really need to live by here so that we know we're all in this together, right? So when we do the protests and all, we can always have that as a frame of reference. Why are we doing this? What are we trying to do to make sense out of our protests, right? We got to find a place for those things. So listen, you all know how I feel about you. I love you all. I got to go because I got to go deal with another commitment and all, but I really am interested. I know all of my colleagues, all of the faculty here really want to hear from you. So please, I'm not going to think your silence is you have nothing to say. I always think about it as you got a lot to think about. And it's kind of hard to reach in there. See, that's what I feel with kids. Sometimes they act out what it is they're experiencing because it's hard for them to reach in there and pull those words out, right? And make some kind of sense. It takes time. And when you find those words, say it. All right? All right. I wish you all well. I hope things go well here. And I'll check in and see.
Thank you, Dr. Earl. So I see a couple hands, and if something's coming to your mind, I would say jot it down. He spoke about some things and some things that we should be thinking forward thought with. So if there's something, please write it down. I will collect it. I will definitely make sure we get it to where it needs to go. I know your hand was up. Please say your name.
My name is Ashley, and it was brought to my attention in one of my classes today that people of color and a minority are not feeling supported by white students in the School of Social Work, and that white students need to stand up. And I don't know if I'm the person to do that, but if I don't, who's going to? So I jotted down some ideas because I don't want to get off topic here. First of all, I do want to acknowledge I am coming from a position of extreme power. I am white, I am middle class, I'm a Christian, and I know that all of those identities have placed me in privileges that I probably will not ever completely understand by the time that I die, but I am committed to learning about them and to being critiqued of how I understand them on a daily basis. So I want to thank people that have stepped up. I know that in the email chain, Kelly, I think was the individual's name, really called on the white population to do more. And I want to echo that. We as white people need to do more to support our brothers and sisters that certainly do not feel supported right now. And that needs to change. I do want to apologize too. In the School of Social Work, it seems ridiculous to me that we talk about all of these things. We talk about inclusiveness, oppression, and discrimination, and we can't talk about those things here. And if we can't do that here, where are we going to do that? And I am sorry that this isn't a safe place, because I think it should be a safe place. And it's not, and that needs to change. One action step I do want to ask of the administration at the School of Social Work and at the university in general, and I will say that this was not my idea. This came from someone in one of my classes today, and I want to acknowledge that that it would be beneficial from students' perspective, and I don't even know if this is already happening, but if staff who are employed by the School of Social Work could go through some sort of training about pods, and maybe they have to go through our 504 class. Maybe it has to be more extensive than that. Maybe it needs to be like a yearly thing where we address this, and maybe it is right now. Maybe it's part of half a day training or something that we address every year and we kind of sign off on it as something that we're going to acknowledge. But I think that it needs to be a core piece of each and every person who works at this school, so that students can feel supported in that.
Thank you. I kind of get the message sometimes that people are thinking, oh, we're in the school, we're not social workers. I'm going to say you are a social worker. Doctors don't practice and say, I'm just practicing, and if I mess up, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a doctor yet. You are a social worker. So please understand that what we are doing is learning. There's people in this space, and I think it's already been said, that we don't know everything. And there's every day, if we awaken and have breath in our body, a moment to learn. So just think about that. We practice as we go. Our crafts, our gifts, the things that are our knack will come to us as we continue to do and gain that wisdom. But you are a social worker right now in this seat, in the first year, in the second year. And when you step outside, there's going to be even more. So I don't know, I kept make it seem like sometimes, well, we're not social workers. We're just pretending like on television. Well, no, this is real. Did I see any other hands? Is there a card?
Hi, everyone. I'm Michaela. There's many Michaelas in the School of Social Work, I've found out, but I am Michaela Webster. Hello, other Michaela. So just going off that piece about training, I'm a firm believer in training, someone that is currently a GSI of a training course. And as much as I believe in training and preparing staff, I think there also needs to be a stress on accountability. I do a lot of one-time workshops for folks, and I love doing that, but that's not enough. So whether it's a training for during onboarding, I think that's great, but needing to have accountability, needing to have something that people can follow up with, something that they can identify as a place that they need to grow in from that training and commit to an action plan or something they're going to work on and be able to follow up with that with a supervisor, whether that's quarterly or whatever makes the most sense, and have that supervisor also have someone else to hold them accountable, because we can all hold each other accountable in different ways. And right now that's not happening. And also with any kind of trainings that I have seen, that's also not happening. It's a one and done kind of deal. And we're supposed to be continuous learners here. So I think that whether you're staff, faculty, students, that needs to happen across the board.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Watson. I am feeling frustrated for a million different reasons, some of which aren't even social work related. I think that's just called life. But I think the thing I really want to say today is that there is no trust with this administration. Not from the students I talk to, not from the conversations that I'm having, and I don't think that gets said enough. And I think it's a scary thing to say to the people who are above you, to the people who have power over you, to the people who can decide whether or not you get your degree. Whether or not you choose to exercise that, debatable, but it's there, right? I think even the way you started this conversation today feels very much like you're here to placate us and does not feel like a space where we are allowed to be angry. I think the reason you're hearing silence is not because people don't have things to say, but because this space doesn't feel safe to say them. I do not feel like the administration wants to hear what we are feeling, what our real, raw, and honest responses. We are sort of expected to sort of filter them through a social work lens or whatever, and then bring them, which I think is productive, but it also doesn't allow people to process in the way that they might process, which is sometimes is anger, and I think that's okay. I am feeling frustrated for all sorts of reasons, and I think that we're not talking enough about why students don't trust this administration. There's nothing in place. Like when I have an issue, where am I supposed to bring it? There's nothing in place to deal with stuff like this. I think that students are experts in their own experience. We are talking every day about the things we want to do better in the school, about the things we really appreciate, and about the things we really hate. We are constantly talking about it. It's not that the information isn't there, it's that it has no place to go. And so I want to know from this administration, how do you plan on hearing from your students? And how do you plan on actively engaging in these conversations where we can bring our full selves?
Erica, I want to quickly respond. I want to thank you for bringing that because you're right. You're absolutely right. I think it's very intimidating to be a student and be in a space where there are admin and we could feel powerless and feel like we're not being heard. And so I want to take full responsibility that the way that the school is structured, very, very problematic. But the idea of student union is to be able to be that voice at the table for students. And so I apologize on my end for not doing a better job in doing that. Because the purpose of why there is even an existing student union is so that we can bring these issues to the table, and we haven't done a good job in doing that. So I apologize for that. That's one way. Obviously, it's not the only way. But that's the whole like purpose of it, right? And so if we're not doing our job, then where else do we go? And you're right. There needs to be a better response. There needs to be, okay, so if student union is not, we're not hearing us out, what can we do? So I thank you for bringing that. And I hear you in the frustration. And I'm right there with you. And I'm sorry that as student union myself, and I'm not saying other members, I'm not saying for other members because they're all great, but I could be doing a better job, and I'm not. I'm sorry.
Hello? Which side is this?
The other side.
Hi.
Yeah, make sure the button is pushed.
Oh.
It should be green.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi. I really appreciate that. That's really great. And I think also the student union as 10 people can't possibly represent the entire school. And so I would really love to see a structure in place where any student who is an expert in the experience that they're having can come straight to the administration and talk about it. But I really appreciate that. Thank you.
So my name is Gloria, and man, thanks for opening that up because that just stirred me up so much because it came out with an apology, which I think definitely leveled out the room, and I thank you for that apology. It was great and very needed. But it's also heartbreaking to see people who are in power and don't want to call you out necessarily, but I know you mentioned like it's hard for staff to step out when there's policies in place. I don't want to lose my job. But when you think about students who are not in that position of power, who have at stake their education, their degree, how are you being a role model for us to step out? So I want to see from administration, I want to see that risk taking. Maybe it's scary, but imagine the students who are here. Just like you heard before, there's students who are in very vulnerable positions, but are willing to be here, who are willing to share their stories. Thirdly, Medell does a great job, and student union is passionate, and I appreciate that. Not everyone has the privilege to, take time out of their schedule. Those of us who have to work because we come from, populations who need to work. Those of us who live out of Ann Arbor because we can't either afford to live in Ann Arbor or we have placements that are placed outside. So there's a lot to think about. And I do appreciate the space given. Thank you so much for everyone who's here supporting. But there's a lot of raw emotion that we definitely, I feel like there's no space for that right now until you just spoke up. And again, thank you for this space right now. Thank you for letting students speak their true emotions. Thank you for the systems in place currently. I would like to see more risks being taken by administration to empower students to be able to be world changers, city changers, and to be the advocates we need to be for people who are oppressed. Thanks.
Can I say something, Sean?
Yeah, and then the young
I'm sorry. It sounded to me as if you were asking administrators to perhaps respond to what you were saying. I'm not sure if that's what you would have liked, or if you were just sort of putting it out there. But there are administrators in the room. I believe I would probably be in that category. And I would actually like to, it's become clear to me from some of the discussions I've had with the students who I talk with, that it's not always even clear who's an administrator and who's not. So we have faculty here who are not in administrative roles. We have staff here who are not in administrative roles. We have faculty here who are in administrative roles. And we may have staff here, I'm not sure, because I haven't seen everyone in here, who are in administrative roles. So I was going to suggest that anyone who is in an administrative role to stand up and introduce yourself so the students will know who you are and know what you are in charge of in the school. I don't know if this is going to be seen as some horrible disruptive people taking control. I'm very sorry if I'm doing that. But I think that if you want to influence administrators, I think it's very important to know who those people are, know who works for who, understand our organizational structure. So Erica, if you're really pissed off about something that is going on, you know who's in charge of that. So if you're really angry about something in an MSW course, you know who's the point person to talk to about that. If you're really, really angry and unhappy about what's going on with financial aid, you know who's the decision person on that. If you don't like the fact, I'm still waiting for certain things in my new office that have not been moved there, and they were supposed to be moved there weeks ago. It behooves me to know who's in charge of getting the stuff into my office. So I just think it's important when we're trying to make change in our institution to also know who might be the point people and change makers. So it's not just directed at you, Erica. I felt like you were inviting us to be accountable to you because we work for you. We are accountable to you. We do these jobs because we care about you. I could be off doing something else somewhere else, choosing not to be a DEI director, which does not come with a whole lot of power, really, in this institution, and certainly does not come with any glory. I don't think, at least I haven't experienced it. But I choose to do it because I care about the students, and perhaps a little bit more than the students, I care about our society. And I want to have students going out there who have learned what they need to learn to go out there and make a difference in our society. And you're part of the society, so that's part of that too. We're all part of the society. So I already said what I do, but I can explain again. I'm the director of the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. There's a effort on the university level for that, and I represent the school on the university and go to meetings with the provost and all those folks. I also teach in the school. This is not a full-time job for me. This is only a part of my job. So I'm also teaching in the school. And as far as I'm concerned, I know that there's deep mistrust, and that's very distressing to me because I sent out a message to students and my feelings are genuine in terms of inviting people to come and talk to me about things they need to have changed. And if you don't have time to work on it, that's fine. I just need to know what is, because I do have some ability to try to move things. So that's who I am, but I'd like some other administrators to also say who they are and what they're in charge of. So you'll know who to talk to when you're angry about whatever it is that they're in charge of.
I'm Joe Himley. I'm a 1984 grad of the School of Social Work here, and I'm the Associate Dean for Research. My job is to try to help with faculty and students to do research that can have an impact on people's lives. And we have an office that supports grant applications and that also supports all the research efforts in the school. So that's my domain.
Okay, I'm just going to talk very quickly. I'm Mary Ruffalo, the Associate Dean of Educational Programs. So in my position, I have responsibility for the oversight of a lot of the different programs within the school that have an educational piece to it. The doctoral program, the undergraduate, community action and social change, minor, and the MSW program. But I'm looking at it from the policies and the perspectives of making sure that we're moving in the directions that you need. And my door is always open. I'm here probably more than anybody wants to see me. But if you know, I'm on the second floor. My door is always open, and I'm also open to emails and also phone messages, because for sometimes it's just as it happens, you want to say something. You don't have to go any further than that if you don't want to. But I am definitely open to hearing from students individually. And I also think there are a lot of people that will do that same thing for you. So I hope that helps understand where my position is here. And I took this position in January. So I've been trying to make major changes within the curriculum and also within our programming. So I'm really open to ideas, and I like innovation.
I'm Dan Fisher. I'm the Director of Field Education and Assistant Dean for Field Education. I've been in this role since May, and came here, I think, primarily because I really value tremendously the work that we can do in trying to prepare you to be professional social workers. This is an extraordinarily important field, and it's an important profession, and I feel that our office is really geared toward trying to prepare you for being out there. My door, like Mary's, is always open. I'm here probably a lot earlier than I would like to be. I'm usually here a lot later than I would like to be as well. But please feel free to reach out to me. I think reach out to folks in the field office. We're going to be moving in about a month, so we'll be on the second floor. My office is kind of tucked in the corner on the second floor, but we'll have new space. We will have an open house for folks to come in and see that new space when we get in it. And we're excited, I think, to do whatever we can to hear your voice. I mean, that's why we're here. And in the same sense, our job is to really prepare you for out there. And I think that's what we're looking for.
Hi, everyone. I'm Barb Hiltz. I'm the director of the master's program here. I've been at the University of Michigan for 2 years, and I was hired as a teacher. So I'm a member of our clinical faculty. I was hired primarily to teach. And then when Dr. Ruffalo took her position, there was a bit of a restructure, and a part-time MSW director was added. And so that's the job that I have now. It's a part-time role, just as Dr. Gutierrez also has a part-time role. And it's still evolving. And I actually am really hopeful that conversations like this will continue to evolve where I focus my time. A lot of what I do has to do with classes. So I'm the person who would hire the lecturers, not the members of our governing faculty, but the LEO lecturers, who are a lot of the people that you have face time with in your classrooms, and then train those folks and make sure people are getting the continuing education that they need to do their jobs the very best that they can. I'm also the person that folks call often when something's not going so great in their classrooms. I talk to a lot of students about things like that, and I'm always happy to do that. Mary and Dan are here early and stay late. My time is a little constrained because I have little ones, but I'm always happy to talk to students. I spent an hour on the phone on Sunday and just said, I'm sorry if you hear little voices behind me. I'm happy to talk to you, but this is my reality. So also my door is always open, and the role that I play here in the school really is evolving. So when we think about knowing where to go and having more space to talk to people who can impact change, I think that's something that I would like to be involved in.
Hello, my name is Ruth Dunkel. I'm the Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs. Does this work?
This one's probably better.
I'm the Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs, so I don't touch most of your lives directly unless I have you in class. But my job is really on the faculty side, and I'm the sous chef, I put it that way, to the faculty. I basically help with promotion, their annual review process, hiring, committees. I'm basically the sous chef to the committees that faculty are chair, and so that's the nature of my job.
Hi, my name is Tim Collenbeck, Assistant Dean for Student Services, and our office is in charge of admissions, recruitment, student services, and financial aid for the MSW program. We also talk to students all the time about lots of different issues, so I certainly would encourage anyone who has any concerns, especially if they're outside of the field and in the classroom areas, to come to our office. Shorn, who has been facilitating this meeting, is focused on health and wellness within our office. Cerise Carrington, who's brand new to our office, is providing financial counseling and meeting with students with financial aid as well as other issues. A couple of things I'd like to emphasize about opportunities to work on policies within the School of Social Work is there are school committees which, by virtue of the committee, have a representation of the policies of the school to have students on them. That would include the curriculum committee, the multicultural and gender affairs committee, the recruitment, admissions, financial aid, and student services committee. I just got an email today from the dean looking for an MSW student to be a member of the search committee, which is a committee that spearheads the search for new faculty members. So there are opportunities. The student union selects the students to represent your class on these different committees, and they're in the process of identifying students to do that. So I would really encourage anyone who would like to be involved in those processes to let Medell and the folks in the student union know that you have that interest. Additionally, there's an ombudsperson for the university. His name is Tom Laker. He's available to any student throughout the university who would like to talk about any issue of concern. So if you're looking for kind of a neutral ombudsperson in the university, and over the years, many students have utilized the services of the university ombudsperson. There also is an ombudsperson in the student union. So one of your fellow students, and they're available for you to address concerns, and they will sometimes bring those concerns to us in the student advisory board meeting, which is a board that includes membership of the student union as well as administrators and student support staff in the School of Social Work. So there are some more neutral opportunities for you to come forward if you have concerns. We also do a number of surveys of students throughout the time you're in the program, as well as an exit survey. We take that data very seriously. Many innovations that are part of the program now have come out of that process. So we do really appreciate the feedback from students and do try to incorporate that feedback in making changes in the school to address the concerns of students.
Sure. So my name is Erin Zimmer. I'm the Associate Director in the Office of Student Services. So I'm working on a lot of the initiatives that Tim talked about. I'm a proud grad of this program too, in 2002, a long time ago. I'm a first-gen student. I was the first in my family to graduate college. And so a lot of the work that I do is focused within our office on the recruitment efforts. So I really take it seriously and really like to talk with students and sort of demystify the process of applying to schools and the pathway to get there, because I didn't have that necessarily that kind of support. I also supervise some of our staff and work a lot with student staff members that work in our office, whether they're graduate students, staff assistants, or work study students in our office. And we do work on graduation and that kind of programming too. So please come talk to me. Who's next?
I think introductions are done. I know that I had, I'm going to pass it on, but this gentleman right here, I forget your name, sweetie.
I know you've been waiting patiently.
No, it's okay. Can everyone hear me? Okay, cool. Yay, big mic. All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Kanal. I'm a second-year student. I'm also on the Recruitment Student Aid Financial Committee. Thank you all for your introductions and telling us what you do and who you are. Kind of some of the themes that I've been picking up here is themes of accountability, themes of accessibility, themes of opportunity for us to be able to interact with the administration at large. I want to throw another E on there. I'd like to see some transparency. I think one of the things I'm learning in 560, because I got time shifted for that, is the school is a system, and systems are designed to keep people from accessing it at every level. Part of them serve a very specific purpose. You don't want all of us getting everyone's personal information and disseminating it everywhere. I respect that. But there are certain procedures that I feel might benefit us if we were able to see what's happening. So with this past incident that happened this past week, there hasn't been a lot of transparency about the actions that are taking place. And I think for a lot of people, it leaves us in that gray zone. Are you doing something or are you not doing something? Because even giving us a sign of saying, we have acknowledged the incident, we are looking into it, we will post you and keep you updated as matters move forward. Doesn't tell us all the intimate details about what goes on behind the scene, but it acknowledges that you have heard us and that steps are being taken. And we see that reflected all throughout the university. I mean, we get the crime alerts, right? An incident has happened. Here's a list of things not to do, but here's nothing about what we're going to be doing about it. Even addressing some of the incidences that have been happening outside of the school social work on campus. I mean, we are a school founded on one core tenet, social justice. Are we not the leaders on this campus amongst all the other individual siloed departments to be the leader, to carry the banner, to say, you know what, if they're not going to step up and take care of it, we have people who can. In this room right now are people who are willing to speak up, put their voice out, step out, and risk a lot to be the face and the voice of people's concerns. But I'm not seeing that from the top down. And what I'm sensing is there's a lot of pressure from the bottom to have something happen, but it's getting stuck because there's nothing from the top that's allowing it to be released. So I ask you, for whatever systems are within your power to control or have the ability to modify so that you can increase your power, show us that you are taking steps to take care of us, not just opening up a forum for us to talk, but that real physical steps of change are being taken, even if it's a one-word email that says, we hear you, we're doing something about it.
All right. Pretty nervous. I might swear, so warning. All right. First of all, I'm going to preface this by saying I understand that we're all here because we care. If you didn't care, you probably wouldn't be here. That's aimed at the admin and people who run my program. Anyways, I want to say that I think this idea that like we have to really like as a student body make our voices heard, like reach out to you guys, find out who the admin is, contact them, tell them that is putting off the responsibility that it's your role as someone in a position of power to seek out the advice of the people you have power over. Like if this room was empty, you wouldn't say, hey, we had the forum, no one showed up, we don't have to do anything. So you should want to find out what your people have to say. All right, I'm trying to organize myself here. Okay. Brief example there is going to be the course evaluations. They always start right about when final papers start getting disseminated, and they always end right about before your final papers are due. So I love this idea that like if we all had our shit together, we could really like make a difference, but a lot of us don't have our shit together, but still have something to say. That doesn't mean that we should be blocked out from input. I want some face-to-face also. There's not enough face-to-face outreach from teachers and staff to people like me. who are probably not necessarily most outspoken or first to come to your door, or the person who's coming to every after-school activity, but right, like we could let that rest on me. Like I'm not doing my best to do that, and I'll acknowledge I'm not. But also, as someone in power, you should search that out. You should find somebody who hasn't said anything to you all semester, sit down with them, have a talk, or even just like in passing, say, hey, is everything all right? Or, hey, what was the worst part about this course today? Or anything like that. That would be nice. There's no built-in structure to promote peer-to-peer support, and that includes staff and students being peers as humans and social workers. I spent a lot of time right now this semester in a course that is teaching me, oh, well, this is getting to my next point a little bit. It's teaching me nothing new so far. It's teaching me a lot about dependent variables and, you know, a lot of stuff about research. I used to work for the ISR, and this is not something that's really important to me. Like, I already know that, and I know I don't want to do it, and that's why I quit. I already had to do all sorts of processing and archiving of research studies. And I feel like I'm not getting necessarily what I paid for. I'm rambling here a bit, but basically what I want to get into is that there needs to be some sort of pedagogy that looks to the students to figure out what we should do. I think it's okay to enter in a course and say we have these certain objectives, these certain large overarching goals that we want to reach. But let's talk to the students. How do we get there? Like, we have the evaluation class that I'm currently in. That's the one I was referencing earlier. I'm not hating on the class or anything, but what about let's do a needs assessment on the student body. Let's do projects that focus on making this school better. I mean, we do in 560 grant writing project. Let's find grants that actually apply in the real life and there's some focus to. And maybe, yeah, your group has to be bigger than 4 people to get it done in time or on a time of basis, or maybe you got to kick it to the next semester. But that would have been something I was interested in. Instead, I wrote a grant for a thing that's, I don't even remember. I can't even remember it right now. Also, last point, I think, is that I think our workload disincentivizes engagement. I think that's part of the system. I think that because there's a lack of peer-to-peer support opportunity, that they kind of like they tie together. There's no, okay, you get 3 credits to just show up to a group full of students and just hash out what's happening at your field placement, like hash out all that shit you have to carry with you because you're sitting with people with real problems, but there's no way to let it out. Maybe your supervision isn't perfect, or maybe it is good, but there's a difference between talking to a fellow student and talking to someone who's been in the field already. There's a difference between talking to that supervisor or talking to somebody who also can realize like this pull of, I wish I could do more. I wish I had my shit together. So I did do more. I feel guilty about not being able to do more. And just being able to like talk with somebody about that, who knows what that feels like when you go to sleep at night and all you're thinking is, I have no idea how to help this person I'm going to see tomorrow, but I'm going to spend all day as soon as I wake up to when I see him trying to figure it out, but then it's still not going to help. And now I have nobody to talk to about it. So there's a lot of that stuff. I think that's it for me though.
Thank you. There was someone right here. I know that after all the change, okay. Someone was there. I was trying to make it around. We're on our way.
Hi everyone, my name's Kame. I want to piggyback off of what Ashley said. Ashley, I do appreciate what you said, but I think it's bigger than just the School of Social Work. It's actually in other specialties. I've noticed they're blatantly disrespecting minorities. I've seen it. They question why we protest, and they're like, why are you disrespecting us? Why are you disrespecting my family? And it's like, but you have to think about the fact that African Americans, like we we have people that fought in wars too, that did things. Like I was at the Take a Knee protest. This guy came up, I didn't recognize him. He wasn't from the School of Social Work. He came up to us and he said, "Why are you guys doing this?" And that's when he said, "Well, my family fought in the war, fought and died for us, and this is what you do. You take a knee at the flag." And basically, like, I ignored him, but other people were yelling at him, like, "Why would you come over here and start this stuff?" And I heard about the fact that at a law school, there's an African American group that's there, and their board is all messed up. There's bad things written on their board, but then you look at the other board that's for their normal stuff. It's not ripped up, it's not messed up. So I think it's bigger than just here. There's obviously something that needs to be done at the other schools too. I feel like there should be some type of foundation course that is required for diversity, not just for the School of Social Work, but at their law schools or engineering. And I know it sounds optimistic and I know it may not be possible, but I feel like it's something that needs to happen because I feel like it's not just here and it's obvious. I mean, there's videos out with people calling us the N-word, people blatantly just saying that, "Oh, we're racist." Like, it's just a lot of things that are happening on this campus that I honestly can't believe. Like, I'm new here. I'm from Wayne State University. So coming here, I didn't even expect the welcome that I got. So yeah, I don't trust and I don't feel safe a lot of the time, especially after what happened, like I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago. So hopefully people can be more open-minded and stop thinking that people are protesting just to do it. Like, we have a reason. They should be educated too. It's not just for us, it's for everyone on this campus. That's all I have to say.
I don't know, I got so many hands. Okay. We'll just pass it back on.
Yeah, it's just quick. I feel like I have to say something because that's just who I am. I'm white, I'm privileged, and I'm sorry. I am often embarrassed of the color of my skin because I feel that no matter, I don't live it. All of you who are minorities live it. I don't. I can argue and argue and try, but you know what you want and you tell me what you want and what you want me to do to help you get there. And I wish that I had a magic wand because I don't know how you feel and hate that. And I am so, so sorry for any of the hurt that's happening on this campus. And for someone that worked really hard to get to this school is extremely disappointed. And I'm so sorry. Just tell me what you need and what you need me to do, and I will be behind you the whole way. Just sometimes it's hard to understand because I don't get it. And I wish I did, and it sucks. That's all.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Audrey. I don't normally speak at these things, so sorry if I sound a little nervous. I just want to ask a quick question to like faculty, staff, admin, any of y'all that can really speak to this. We talked a little bit about the response of calling the police, but I think I also want to ask about the email that was sent out and just kind of like what the response is. I'm not
asking to be like get personal or anything. I just want to know, like, for the sake of accountability and transparency, because that was such a public action that had such a huge impact on students and staff alike. So I just kind of want to know, like, it's just hard to let it disappear into the void of our inboxes without seeing some like tangible repair and understanding like what a more concrete response is.
Thank you. I would like to give a response to that. What I want to say is that we also were very disturbed by what happened. Okay, it was not something that we had been ever thinking anybody would write on a general email to everyone. So what I want to tell you is that there are things that happen that are part of personnel that we can't talk about, but there are other things we can talk about, which is the fact that we're looking at what types of DEI type training do all staff. You already mentioned it. We're already looking at that, and we're looking at the university to see how we can bring things into the school so that we don't do a one-shot workshop, but really think about the fact that everyone has different needs about how to learn, and how do we bring that to the school. So that is definitely happening. The other thing I think we've learned too is that we really don't have any policies in the school social work or even university-wide that really deals with etiquette on professional listservs and communications. And that's something else that we want to involve students and faculty about looking at how, and staff, looking at how do we create a document that will hold each of us to the standards of really respecting what we want, which is the goals of our DEI. So action is in process.
I'm gonna move to the other side. I had some hands over there. I'm gonna get my healthy points in.
Oh man. You want to go? Okay, it's Leslie again. I missed part of what you said, Mary. I hate that because I think part of what I wanted to say addressed that. I just want to make a remark and then a request. It is about acknowledging what is going on the listserv. Right now, there has been a string of emails that have gone back and forth with a student that used to be part of the community, and I'm pretty sure you all are aware, but just to bring you up to speed. And it has caused so much further division and hurt. And I think that is an undertone that is being expressed here on top of everything else. My request is that could someone please review that, see if that person should be removed just based on, I guess, the friction that she's causing into the community, because it's just going back and forth. It's in all the classrooms. Everyone is talking about it. So please, can someone speak to that or just let me know? But I think that would be in the best interest of moving forward for our school.
I will look into that. I will. We don't monitor the student listserv, or we should maybe look at that more often.
I do think this is an unusual circumstance that would,
That's why I'm saying we are going to look at it. We will look at some of these communications because we need to be respectful and we need to be a community. And if this is something that's really divisive and doesn't fit into the guidelines of what we want our system, our community to be, we really didn't want to be a police to the, the listserv. But if there is something that's very disturbing, we ought to know.
So there are a couple of things. One is that I know the individual, someone I actually know from classes and things. The person is still enrolled in the school social work. So she is not, there's this perception that she's sort of some sort of outsider who inserted herself, but that is not the case. I actually checked into that. And so that's one thing. You missed that. That was a meeting that took place while you were teaching a class. And she needed to teach her class. So that is the situation. At the U of M, expect respect. There is a form that you can fill out at the Office for Institutional Equity, where if you are concerned about anyone's behavior, whether it's a fellow student, a faculty member, a staff member, you can fill out that form and ask to have it investigated. If there are concerns about an individual and how they're anything that they're doing that's having a negative impact on our environment, you could make an anonymous report or a non-anonymous report. I would just add a meeting where they were covering these policies. If it turns out to be because the person is an active student, it relates to the student's code of conduct of rights and responsibilities, it might get sent to what's called the Oscar office, which handles that. But I personally, myself, encourage people to utilize some of the ombudsperson that Tim referred to, the Expect Respect website. All of this, I believe, I've been told it's in the student handbook. I haven't looked, but our office, the DEI office, is working on making all that stuff much more visible on the School of Social Work website for not just for students, but also our office oversees faculty and staff experiences too. And we want to make sure that people know what their rights are when their rights are being violated. So again, this person is an individual. I think what Mary was saying about the listserv and monitoring and all that stuff, that's something, we don't want to be a watchdog over what students are talking about on their listserv, but there are processes in the university to report behaviors that are distressing to other people. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Dominique Hollis. A lot to say. Feel kind of less inclined to say it because I just don't have a really good standing in the program because I'm floundering amidst all of the violence and hatred being directed at Black and brown bodies, not just today or yesterday or this past month, but I can say throughout my entire academic experience, there wasn't a time in which I did not feel that the environment here was toxic to me. And it's not just out in Ann Arbor itself or in the university grounds, but also within this school. I came here with so much love and hope to create a network to do the work I am so passionate about, and it's uplifting, building communities that I once belonged to. And if anyone met me during those earlier stages when I had hope, I talked of advocacy. I had training and creating advocates and teaching people of how to bridge the gap in their learning so that we could partner in the work. And then I dropped that within 2 weeks. I dropped that in within 2 weeks because I realized that there was no necessity for me to teach on my own time because I would be required to do so within the classroom. Within my time here, I feel as though the learning environment is not centralized for the learning and development of communities of color to lead their own communities. And that, I feel like, is perpetuated in the sort of norms that are used to facilitate conversation, in which we talk a lot about safe space and allowing people to have the grace to speak ignorance, which I can say as a person of color going through school from kindergarten to undergrad, there was never a time that I felt like, wow, I could be gifted and blessed with a space in which I am not going to be challenged. I actually just started to think about today how I was so close to being expelled because I wrote papers that were too eloquent for how I spoke at the time. Let that hit. So I want to say that in the way in which we structure the learning of others, that's privilege. That is privilege at the cost and inconvenience of people of color who are already being forced to teach others how to respect our humanity. That is not work that a person should have to do. I don't feel like in all of my accessibility to the ignorance that has come out of the School of Social Work, And sometimes I don't like saying that because I feel like we put so much into honoring that collective identity that we don't want to sit with critical critique. That historically, social work has not been a place in which I feel like in partnership as a person with a marginal identity, I can be empowered. And I don't feel that in the school either, because there are some things that have come out of professors within the classroom, within facilitation of class, that have come out of students, that very closely resembles the things that we push against. Prejudice, microaggressions that we choose to name as like really sharp learning curves. Like, look, they're eventually, it's within good intentions that this person has disrespected you, and you should not respond with so much hate, because you should be present to their intention, not their impact. But that's not how this works, because I come here with the history of that impact in my bones and within my own history of my family and my communities that I come from and that I represent. I wish we could be more transparent about that so we can address it, because I don't always feel like I can address it without being attacked or vilified for having the opinion that not everyone came here with the intention of going into social justice. It has been spoken aloud. I don't know if everyone feels safe recognizing that, but it is known. And it's not just by the sort of activity that we choose to engage in on this campus, but in the way in which we choose to frame the work we do with communities that have been marginalized by systems of oppression. I wish, I hope that we could work with the reality that our battle does not start when we graduate. It starts within this institution, within this school, that we are making sure that the values and ethical codes that we hold so dear to the work that we are doing, that everyone is following it and internalizing it as integral to their work. And that's all I have to say on that. But in vain with the comment that was made earlier to training in regards to pods for faculty, I am wondering what sort of criteria or rhetoric or rubric is used to gauge students who are incoming who have applied their commitment to this work. Because if you were to be in these classrooms and we're talking about some of these social theories, a lot of folks have not been exposed. And it just seems very unfair to the communities that are needing to be served for folks to only have 1 year worth of this engagement to then be given the best accreditation to do work that could possibly be harmful.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to stand up for a second. I'm Kelly. I sent out that email yesterday. I just want people to see my face because I own those words that I wrote out to everyone. I also want to say I'm a little concerned with a couple comments tonight about white students, particularly here, who are putting the onus of their education and some of these issues onto our fellow students of color. I want to kind of push back a little bit on that very positively and say that we can take charge of our own education in that respect. I think sometimes that does quite a great deal of damage that we might not be aware of. And I wanted to say that. I also wanted to encourage anyone who wanted to have a conversation about that to come talk to me. if you wanted to. This was mentioned already a couple times, but in terms of email spaces, the listserv, social media, there's this element of being, I think I've heard the term Twitter brave, email brave, listserv brave, Facebook brave, where a lot of comments are being thrown around from the safety of being behind your computer screen. And I want to know what we as a community can come up with to kind of challenge that. And that's why I'm saying what I said, that was me. I would say those words to you now, because I'm not sure that everyone who's been putting stuff out there would be able to say that and say, this is me, this is what I have to say, because of that computer screen bravery. So I don't know what that looks like. If it means there's a venue to, put, I know we don't want to police the listserv, and I get that, and I really do respect that, because I don't want that either. But if there's a venue to be like, I want to report this, or, can we bring this person in to have a face-to-face conversation because of that bravery that happens behind a computer screen. So maybe that's something as an action item we can think about to push forward. And that's not only students, I'm talking about staff as well. Wherever this could happen, like, we need to have systems for this, because I think a lot of damage has happened this past week, this past month, since we started this program, in fact. And it would be great, we're about to be gone, so we can set that up, have that be a thing, and turn it over. So we should consider that.
Thank you. I have one in the back here.
Hi guys, my name is Molly. I am an administrative coordinator in the Office of Field Instruction. I'm not a student, not a faculty member, I'm not an administrator, I'm just a staff member. Well, I shouldn't say just, but I'm a staff member. So I'm not a social worker. So I think we've kind of been tiptoeing around it a little bit, but that initial offensive email came from a staff member who I don't want to presume, but I believe is not a social worker. So it's been kind of an interesting week to be a staff member. And Lorraine made a point when this started, and this was also touched upon just a bit ago, that we all came here for the pursuit of social justice, and that's not necessarily true for staff members. We don't have a code of ethics. We know maybe we have our own personal code of ethics, and I really want to thank Ashley for bringing up the point about there just needs to be more training for staff. Ignorance isn't an excuse, it's a problem, and it needs to be fixed. And I feel like staff, especially at the School of Social Work, should be held to a higher standard, myself included. And I just want to thank all of you, because I didn't know anything about social work before I started this job. I was in the library for 8 years, and then I came here. And it's been really humbling and pretty overwhelming, and really inspiring too. So a lot of staff are here for you guys too. I know we're kind of in a weird position sometimes. I feel like we don't show up to these things enough, and we don't speak out enough. And a lot of us were talking all week, and it's been stressful too for us, and we really feel for you guys. So I don't want to speak for everybody, but at least for me. So sorry, I was really nervous, but thanks.
Well, I'm a staff. I've been here for 10 years. I am a social worker, a graduate of this program. Sometimes it's hard to figure out who am I as Nisharan, the individual, the mother, versus Nisharan, the employee, as well as I'm very passionate as when I started with working with you folks. The engagement with you, community, is very important to me. So yeah, there's a lot of things that go on that I don't agree with, and there's a lot of things that I know that are on the other side of the curtain, and I know that progress can be slow. But I know that I guess the time being here, I have seen a real huge difference from even when I started back in 1999. This place wouldn't probably have addressed some of this when I was here. I came from folks doing some stuff. I went to UC Santa Barbara. Could have been a UCLA, could have been a UC Berkeley. But as a mom, I went to UC Santa Barbara. So when I see some of the things when I was in school, and from what I come from California folks, I was thinking probably some of the same things you guys were thinking about. Wow, am I really hearing this in class? Is this really social work? Oh my God, what am I doing here? I kept saying, I'm going home. I'm going home. Almost 20 years later, I am still here. The vortex caught hold of me, and it was called continuing the work from the shoulders of the people I stood on. And those were the Black and brown people who were in my corner. I know that nothing is perfect. I know that we don't always get everything we want, and life is not fair. And as I started, this is a room of people who really care, who are in pain, who are trying to struggle with what it is from being a student to being in class, to being in field, to living their lives and moving forward on whatever it is that they have passion for. And there's a lot of assumptions that come with you folks and ourselves into this program. So I think that's where some of this stuff is coming out. All these assumptions that everybody is for social justice. And social justice can mean different things for different people. I appreciate Mina's statement about intersections and intersectionality, and I know that Beth Reed and some others, that is their area, and that's very important. That critical thinking, that accountability, that piece of being empathetic. Are we being empathetic enough? I don't know. I'm not calling anyone out. Yeah, we can do more. I know that for me, I start with me before I start to say, you need to do something. I can't change you. I can only change me. I can only look at who I am against those things. And there's a lot of things definitely I've experienced as a single mother of 3 children that came from one state to another and didn't know anybody in this city. So I understand some of the things you relate with, which is why it always makes me humbled to say, hey, you from California too? Yeah. You know, California in the blood. It was just a different world. But I also felt there was a different presence of things. Once again, not perfect. But I don't know. And we all came in this door with a different sight, or maybe nothing. What are they doing? What are they going to say? Oh, there goes another one of those things to pacify us. I don't know what you're going to leave here with. But I know that in other schools, which this young lady just said, law and engineering and others, I'm not sure how they respond to their students or what they do. But I do know what comes from the Office of Student Services, because that's where I've been. I was there as a student, and I'm there as a staff. And when they say the door is open, and when you see people that are there long hours, including myself, where I have now young adults who are, I was first one in my family to attend any form of college. My father had almost 90 years old, 7th grade education, if you would call country school, shotgun. So when I think of what I do, I always try to be as open, try to have my ears on, try to be understanding, but I also do hurt. I also do cry. I've had lack of sleep for the last week because I'm going to sleep with, wow, gosh, really? But it's not you. It's actually what's going on in society when there's somebody at the top making messages that then are stirring all these things that where I'm like, well, how can I keep something in the air? There's another ball. Wait a minute, I'm about to drop this one. So I'm just saying, we have to take in consideration all those things because I think that's what we all are feeling. Who is not being addressed or attacked or under siege, or whose environmental world has not been turned upside down by tornadoes and hurricanes and anything else. It's just moving. And before we can get to one, our plate is filled with something else. And then you have class, we have field, and we have this paper, So yeah, we're tired. And I've said to myself, I'm tired of saying I'm tired. But then I said, well, what do we do? Well, I get up and I go to work and I try to be as open and as productive as I can. And as things have, something has said, not today, we're dealing with this. I'm hoping that you do feel from your heart, even if you don't agree with what's come out from people's statements and the genuine honesty. I know we heard transparency. You can believe or not believe. I know it's about walking the walk because bullshit talks. But understand that this is the first step in the next steps of your life. And if you want to say what you want to say in your circles behind other doors, please do. Make sure that you share it with those people. There's a lot of things that have been, and I didn't take a pen to it. I think it's being taped somewhere, so maybe then we can read through it. But definitely committees, joining them, speaking with this lovely woman back here who said, hey, you want to talk about that? If you want something to be done, I'm definitely open to holding or helping with getting a space, which is a challenge in this place. But I'm going to tell you, it's a challenge. But if you want to organize something, let me know. I believe in the people who are working here. I've had my own challenges with some of the people that are here as well. But it doesn't mean that I throw away the baby with the bathwater. And I apologize for all these little cliches. I do come from old parables and other things. But if I just threw everybody away, well, who would I have? We're not in this fight alone. It's being able to, as I started off, trying to learn and teach and be present in the moment and saying, I need help. I don't know. I don't understand. Oh, this is what I think might work. Have you guys thought about that? I don't know. Whatever it is for you. So I give you the charge of making sure that reach out, because these people didn't come here just to talk. These are genuine administrators who stood up and said who they are and what they are willing to do. Understanding that it's not going to be instant, put it in the microwave, we got a 5-minute popcorn bag. It's going to be work. And it may not be in your shelf life because you may not be here to see it. But as alumni, you definitely have access to it. You'll be able to hear it because I know as an alumni of the information I share. And you can always come back and visit. And maybe you'll be teaching one of those classes that you just said, oh, that shit sucks. So I'm just saying, not until you're wearing those shoes do you really know what they feel like. I know it's 7:35. I'm not trying to end. As I said, I'm speaking from my heart. There's nothing written down. But I don't know, maybe I'm Pollyanna. I don't believe that we are all here just to bully each other, hurt each other, be mean to each other. To me, kindness can win. I'm a Bob Marley, one love. And if you don't like me, at least try to respect where I come from, because you don't have to like me, but I'm willing to work with you. And I think there's a lot of people in this space who are saying that same thing. So stand up, be brave, and knock on those doors. Use constructive means to be able to answer and address the things that you're feeling inside that may have not come in this room, may continue on that, and understand that nothing is going to happen if we don't know it. And the other is, it's not going to happen overnight. But if you're willing to stick in your heels and dig in, we're living in that. The tides are rapidly changing. And this is our time. Nothing comfortable is ever going to make you move forward. So that's what happens. The globe has been turned upside down and things are shifting all over. So once you get your bearings, once you kind of figure out where and who is your friend, your foe, your ally, who you can trust, or who you feel you can have a confidant with, please reach out. And if that's peer-to-peer and a group saying, well, we'll put this in an anonymous email, you want to put it and slip it under someone's door, I don't know what means hummingbird, pigeon. I don't know, old school snail mail. I don't. But I say, please do so. Don't continue to let this fester in your heart and say, oh yeah, because I feel that there is a sense of apathy. There's a sense of people saying, yeah, okay, whatever. Let me get my degree and get out of here. Or maybe, like myself, I need to be gone. I didn't. I stuck it out. And I've seen the difference. It's not what I want it to be, but I know the potential. Is there anything anyone else would like to say? Because as I said, this was not something I planned, but I did want to make sure that there was some sense of closure on where I come from. All right.
Hey y'all, it's me. Me. I'm Lario, I also go by Angela. Just real quick, I guess to admin or IT. So like, what is the protocol now for like people abusing emails? Cause I could unsubscribe, but I shouldn't have to. And like also I'm gonna miss out on everything, and I pay too much money not to know what's going on in the school. So what's the protocol for that now? Meaning like this, I'm just tired of everybody talking like, don't email me unless you emailing me about a job at this point. So like, what's the protocol? Cause this is going to happen again. Everybody's getting, like Kelly said, everybody's getting really brave. No matter what side you're on. And like, I can't not check my email. And like, I never know what email is safe to open now because we get so many for the school social work listserv. And like, I want to open stuff so I can know in jobs and opportunities to connect. So what steps are you all actively making to like create protocol? Or I know somebody suggested like, well, like supervising kind of emails, or just, I know we all want like not to have to always get it pre-approved before it's sent out, but I think everybody's been getting these emails, and I really haven't seen much response at all from admin publicly. Which publicly is just important because that's where the offenses are, so you can't check these things in private when you publicly harm communities. So what are y'all gonna do about that is my question.
No, it's not something I'm saying. I'm telling you what I can think of at this point. And that is, we don't have a set answer yet. And that's what I want to say to you. We don't have a policy. We don't have a practice that we've been using to monitor that listserv or to even get ideas about how we should be doing that policy. But it has to happen. We have to develop one. And that is what we've been talking about too in some of our meetings this week. So anyone who wants to give us feedback or ways of thinking about it, it doesn't have to come from administration. It should come from the community. And we do need to have a whole policy about that because right now we don't have one. So that's all I can tell you is your question is really important and we need a policy. It's been very clear.
I don't want to keep people here later, but I just want to speak to this issue of what is going on currently. As I mentioned, there is a process for reporting people who you think are being disruptive on the email listservs. And I would recommend that if people are feeling very disturbed by some of the discussion. So I would encourage you to do that if you're feeling disturbed by some of the discussions and maybe, or certain individuals who you feel are being disruptive on the listserv. In terms of policy, Mary's absolutely right. I don't think we've ever had a situation where things have been as contentious as they are currently. Though I do remember there was a time when there were 2 MSW listservs. There was one that was for admin stuff like jobs and things coming from the administration and whatever. And then there was one for students conversing amongst themselves. If that still exists, and that maybe that's an option for people who don't want to be hearing all these discussions. I don't know. So there are still two, but
One is moderated.
okay. So I don't know if that might address it for some people who want to make sure they get the moderated kind of information, like the jobs and the official communications from the school, in contrast with these things that are more interactive kinds of discussions among students. I don't know if you.
Yeah. I think Aaron sent out an email today saying that those of you who want to withdraw or go back on the open student listserv, it's a choice you make. The other one is an official one, and it's always communications from administration to you. So we've tried to, because students in the past have told us when it was all on one listserv that they missed a lot of really important information because they stopped looking at the listserv because there were too many messages. So we have tried to address that from what students have said by having the two listservs. And then the other way that you get information from administration is in the e-newsletter that comes out every 2 weeks.
And for you to know what that is, the one says MSW, I think it says official, and the other one is SSW. So that's the email that went out. The SSW, MSW is a public one, and that's for inside, outside. Anybody shared it with someone else, people get their hands on it, versus the other one, which is why that exists, so that you can get the direct information. That is probably even more important, but doesn't mean that other things from that MSW version is not, because people are feeling that they want you to share, because I know I share things on that. If there's nothing more to be said, anybody else have any last words?
I want to thank everyone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was going to move there. I just didn't want to cut anyone out who may have that one last burning sensation. But we do appreciate your time.
And I certainly hear that there are people who don't trust me. There may be.
You have a question? Sure.
But I am still there, whether or not you trust me or believe I am genuine in my invitation to say come talk.
I was just wondering when we can actually expect to hear next action steps for when this is going to happen. Because I'm hearing a lot of, well, we need to talk about it. We're going to have a meeting, this and that. But, are we going to hear, when can we expect to hear there's a meeting happening, there's a committee forming? When can we expect to hear how students can get involved in this process? Because everyone's pretty much left because they're not getting answers.
Some of the actions will be going on through the standard committees of the school, where it's our governance of the school, where students are represented, have representation on all the committees. Some of them will have to be new initiatives, and we will let you know how you can get engaged in that. But most of the time, what we try to do is use our standard committees to take on special topics or special issues. And we do have equal representation of students who are voting members of each of those committees. And that's through the student union, those of you who want to participate, to make sure you touch base. Because I do know that there are some committees that still don't have students.
Yeah, so I wanted to speak on that. We are in the process of, I will send out an email, but we are in the process of filling those subcommittees. It's just with everything that's been going on, be really transparent with you all. We just haven't prioritized that, so that's our bad. But we will be sending out an email. We vote on it, but really anyone that wants to be on it, there's usually not a huge turnout. So if you are interested in getting involved, if you don't hear from us, I'm going to ask you to hold me accountable. If you don't hear from us by tomorrow or Monday, reach out to me personally, and then I'll make sure that we are pushing for getting those student representation on the subcommittees. I just apologize. Everything's been going on. We just haven't prioritized it. But yes, there are subcommittees. There are committees that can be formed, and you all can take action. You all can definitely be like, hey, Madal, I haven't heard from you. what's up, we want to form a committee, and then we'll make it happen, okay? We'll speed the process, and there's not going to be like a super long process, just like letting you know what we can do, and then we'll make it work.
I'd add that I think we have a communication problem in the school, and I think we have a transparency problem in the school, and I heard that certainly from all of you tonight. And so a couple of things I know are happening. One is the school has actually engaged a consultant to come in and help us really sort of step away and look at how we're communicating important issues with our students, and they've asked for students to be involved in that process. So look for something on that soon. The other is this town hall is meant to be in the future. So we had an agenda planned, which we shelved for tonight, but we're going to start having these regularly, and they are meant to be a time for us to say, here's what we think we heard. Here's some of the things that we're doing and working on because of that. Now reflect on that, right? Then give us some feedback on how we're doing with that initially. How does that sound to you? Do you think we're off base? And so today, communication was one of those things we were going to talk about. Financial issues is one of those things we were going to talk about. And also the diversity or lack of diversity in our faculty is one of the things we're going to talk about. So we'll get another one of these on the agenda soon too, so that we'll have another opportunity to talk. Because you're asking, when do we hear back about what you've actually done? And I hear that a lot. And so we've got to make more spaces like that, so we're actually reporting things back.